Hello, I'm Matt.
And I'm Lloyd, and we're running the Beyond Marathon Fallout Ultra.
Trying to escape vaporization.
Welcome to the Tea and Trails podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 117 of the Tea and Trails podcast. Thanks, Matt and Lloyd, live from Beyond the Marathon Fallout Ultra. I've never heard of this event. There's some distance or some way that you actually get vaporized.
So they're no longer around.
There's just a husk or a skeleton on a fell somewhere. Please keep those intros coming. Email them to hello@teaandtrails.com. And sorry if you're waiting patiently for your intro to be played. The cupboards are bulging.
Can we change the verb? I really don't like starting the podcast with
bulging.
Especially as you spelt it bulging. Oh, I've got a really bad bulging.
Oh, don't call out my typos. This is a safe space, Oryx.
No, I know. You're the best.
Big hugs to all our patrons and everyone who has joined Patreon over the last week. For the price of a cuppa, you can help keep the lights hot and the mics on. I saw a social media post. Somebody was calling out the price of a cuppa in the Lake District. Then the person who either works, I'm not going to mention who these people are, that would be bad form of me, but the person who works in the venue corrected the claim, but it was still a super expensive cup of coffee. It was like £4.45 or something. So for less than a price of a cuppa in the Lake District, you can help keep the lights hot and the mics on and save big time on all your trail running essentials. And don't forget, if you would like a snood or a bobble hat, then you need to add your address to Patreon. No address, no goodies.
Thanks to X Miles Precision Fuel and Hydration, Harry Trail Running, Phoenix Lights UK, Shocks and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show.
X Miles is a family-owned independent endurance sport retailer that provides nutritional goods, apparel and accessories to help athletes perform and recover at their best. X Miles offer a wide range of quality products from leading brands and their team of nutrition experts. Cyclists, runners and outdoor enthusiasts can provide expert advice and guidance to help you reach your goals. Whether you're a seasoned athlete or just getting started, X Miles is the perfect place to find everything you need to succeed. www.xmiles.co.uk.
We also have a Tea and Trails Ultra Easter offer. Buy one entry, get one free. Yes, you heard correct. To celebrate the upcoming long bank holiday weekend and the bunny arriving, we are offering buy one, get one free on all Tea and Trails Ultra entries. This is what you need to do. You choose from either the 30k or the 50k. Enter via the Tea and Trails Ultra website, and once you have made your entry, you'll be able to add your trial buddy free of charge. If you already have an entry, log on to your SI Entries account and you can add a friend on us. Sign up this weekend. Okay, the offer is available 17th of April to the 30th of April. So it's not long, Gary.
Do reach out if you have any questions. I've got lots of questions coming in over on Facebook and Instagram. It's the guys at Area Events that have all of the answers. Unfortunately, Eddie and I, limited
Just
knowledge.
the faces.
The dates. Really, just the glamour. Do you remember that advert? Was it the double glazing advert? I said, you buy one, you get one free. Did you hear me? That's ingrained on my memory. Some guy.
Really? No, I don't, but I really enjoyed it. And I think you should do it again.
Very grateful to Ugoku Projects for producing the Tea and Trails cap. Pop over to Ugoku Projects if you would like one. Don't forget, patrons receive 20% off.
Thanks, Gary, for the last 45 minutes before we pressed record we had to have a slight podcast therapy session where I need Gary to reassure me that speaking into this microphone is a worthwhile venture. I do get very anxious. I get anxious before we record. I get anxious when we record. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, what have we said? What have we done? And I just have to put it aside.
Safe hands, Eddie. Nothing slips through these fingers.
I'm in safe hands. But I think it's hard work, isn't it, Gary? I don't know if you have the same anxiety. You're calmer.
It's funny. Somebody asked me a question in my DMs about this. How do you cope with putting it out there?
I don't know what I worry about, but I just worry.
I worry sometimes maybe we're not that podcast, we're not really this spiky, prickly podcast. I'm worried that maybe we might upset somebody sometimes, which is very rare, but the quality of the content or how people perceive the content. No, I stopped stressing about that.
Do you? Okay. That's good. We have to have one of us. It's like a relationship, isn't it? One of us highly anxious, highly strung. It's like
You'd never
I'm the
do
whippet to your Labrador.
There'd be so many reasons not to do it, wouldn't it? If you really analyse the
There
whole
would.
thing.
And when I do think, oh, I don't know, why? And then we just get the most amazing messages. We still got like a bank of messages to read, and they give that little warm feeling in your tummy, and you're like, okay.
If you do want to reach out on the podcast in any way, Instagram DMs, Facebook DMs, they're not the place to send them in. I miss so many of them. So if you really want to get in touch,
Email. Because we sit for like 45 minutes and go through this super fun. And go through all the emails and work out what's going. Yeah, guys, I know this is amazing to think you're getting a real behind the curtains that actually there is a tiny little bit of admin. Oh my God, that goes into this. So yeah, hello@tntrails.com, just like Gary said. Oh, it's not as sunny as it was, Gary.
Goodness
but we bring
me.
the heat. We bring the heat, eh? We keep the fires burning. Somebody said to me, gosh, you caught the sun. And I thought, I just think now my skin is a raw red of constant.
that's the zone 3 glow. That's called.
I love it. Last week I did it, Gary. I'm still not at 100%. I'm at like 98, 99%. But that's because I just need to do a longer sesh. So I've learned a few things this week as well, being busy, but I'll talk about that later. So I heat suited. I didn't have a lot of time last week. So I heat suited 5 out of 7 days, Gary. Oh, I can't stop myself.
But it's so
I've got to
addictive.
the point now where I prefer to run in my heat suit than not in it when I'm on the treadmill because I just feel like, I can just run so easy and the heart rate's there. I made an error and I put the heat suit on. I said, right, I'm going to run outside. Who wants to come with me? It was sort of like 6:30 and I thought, no one's going to want to come with me. Oh, come, Mum. Oh, great. One. Great. Well, I'll come too. Where are we going? Oh, route decisions. And then the third one, I could see Bryn's shoulders like, Masters Golf is going on. You're taking them out. I'm going to have an the Doritos pack opens. So, but I was like, okay, guys, right, okay, let's do it. Let's go. All on their bikes. Because there's speed differences and also there's like kamikaze differences. So off we went. You all know now because you're in my tribe. You get hot and then it's like really hard to like think of anything else because you're hot and you're just like, anyway, I got hot and then we had massive meltdowns about bikes and stuff. So I was like, right, just leave the bike in the wood. You run with me. Off we go. But we kept stopping for gates and arguments and stuff. And why won't you race me, Mum? Why won't you sprint me? I'm like,
I'm wrecked.
And I was wrecked. And then we're running and I'm like, I have to keep moving because every time we stopped, bloody temperature goes down. And then I have to read like, come on, let's keep moving. Anyway, it was about 6 miles by the time I got back, about an hour and a half worth of pain. And I got really grumpy halfway through. And then I was like, this is meant to be like, the kids don't care. They wanted to go out with their mum for a nice bike ride. And you're just squawking at them because you're got 18 layers on. Eddie, get a grip. We calmed the waters and we had a nice sort of second half. When I came back, because I hadn't got my heart rate, I kept doing like these sprints back and forth to try and keep my heart rate up. I thought I didn't really get my heart rate into what I know is like that heat training zone now, but it gave me like intense heat training, 7 out of 10. It was about 10 degrees. You can, if you put enough layers on. And my secret to not feeling so publicly embarrassed, one, choose where there's not going to be anybody, but also I actually don't put anything on my trousers. I just layer the top and I still get the same heat effect. And I kind of think I can get away with that. And I use my Montane mittens and a bobble hat. So I kind of feel if people do see me, I could probably just pass as a cold person without like the trousers on as well. And I've tried trousers on and off and it doesn't really make that much difference. So it certainly doesn't make any difference when you're outside. So you can heat train outside. You don't need treadmill. You just need no pride.
That's all my protocol. My heat training. Well, typically I'll maybe do it after the treadmill. So I'll do the treadmill session down the gym and then I'll run home. The normal run is basically the village loop with Rex. And it probably takes me like 2.5 miles to get into that zone 3. And then it's like completely decoupled the effort to heart rate. And it doesn't matter what I do, my little dial thermometer just keeps going up and up and up. And similar to you, couldn't really call it a love run, but I did a love run with Lisa and I did exactly the same. I ran ahead for 200 meters and I ran back until I got into this 38.
Idiots. Yeah, we're idiots. What are we doing?
Absolutely wild. But when you stop, you get this free heat training because
15,
if you leave
20
all the layers on, and I was even getting hotter and hotter and hotter.
Yeah, you get hot.
in the back
Especially
garden.
if you go in the kitchen and try and make tea in your heat layers. I do take the mittens off for that bit. And then you start like doing the oven and the pots and the pans. I'm like, my God, look. And I'm like, my God, I'm still 38.4, like 20 minutes. But then eventually my back and I'm like, ooh, and the rest of the family go, Mum, you're going to sit down with us now for tea.
I do want to question the data though sometimes, because I did a run on Saturday and it gave me a heat adaptation score for Saturday, even though I never got into zone 3. So I always thought that, I've read the data afterwards, you do still get a score for zone 2, but I thought the magic happened in zone 3. So I'm not too sure the physiology. So in theory, you could just leave this sensor
You're
on.
heat acclimatizing in zone 2. So you're getting your body to aware of that heat stress, but I don't think you get the adaptations until you're in zone 3. You'll feel it, don't you? When you get into zone 3, you feel that like heart rate, you just feel the block and you feel the speed go. And I think that's where.
But in theory, I could leave it on for every run. And I could become
you could get
champion. This is an extreme example, but you could never go into zone 3. I don't know how long it would take you. If I applied what I did on Saturday to every run, then I would be incrementally building up the scores very slowly.
I think you'd just sit at a level, actually. I don't think you'd ever, because you'd lose, you'll get to if you do 2 days, it goes down.
That's the really addictive part though. Now I've enforced a no heat day to day because I did the workout yesterday, and tomorrow's going to be another heat session. And obviously London Marathon coming up. Yeah, Gary doesn't like the numbers going the other direction. So once you get
as good as me though, Gary, I just do 2 30 minutes and that keeps it not dropping. And then I do one longer one, which I feel I need to work out in the heat just because I enjoy it. It feels good, but also I want the body to feel the heat stress so that if race across Scotland is a heat wave.
Could be. I always thought treadmill running was easier than outdoor running because of the outside factors that you could encounter when you're running, wind, etc., incline. But when I run outside, I don't really go into that zone because of you just cooling so much more. I always go into zone 3 on the treadmill.
Yeah,
so
I just think it's just so much hotter. It's just so much hotter, isn't it?
So then by default, is it harder to run on a treadmill than outside?
I think it's way harder to do heat train on the treadmill.
Yes.
Yeah, way harder. It's so much more intense. And mentally as well, you got nowhere to go. I'm so bored of the same YouTube videos. I'm like,
I need some inspiration, actually.
Yeah, I can't watch you day in the life anymore. Anyway, so we had quite a lot of heat training last week. I was like thinking about it, and I got a 17-mile day and a 14-mile day in. 14 miles was all running. I was pretty happy with that, 2 hours. I was meant to meet the kids. They went off to play golf, and I was meant to meet them at the golf course where there's Sensational Cafe, Gary. Anyway, so they dropped me 16 miles from there and went off to play golf. And I did this run. I've done it like quite a few times. Lovely run. I got about 8 miles in where you have to take a left or a right fork, basically. And I was doing something, listening to something, bopping away. I just had Lindy with me, so it's a little bit easier than when I've got Tarka too. Makes me excuses, I know. And so we're having a lovely time. And then I started running down this lane. I thought, I have no recollection of this nice farm before. But it didn't cause the brakes on. Oh, no. So I carried on. And I was long, straight bit of road. And I was like, let's do this, Lindy. Let's drop those 5-minute Ks. Woohoo! Steaming fast, aren't we? We got to the end of the road and I thought, I'll just check. And I had no reception. And normally I put the route on my watch. Anyway, it didn't. Had no reception. Ran on a bit. Got to another fork and I thought, I know that mountain and I'm not the right side of it. Oh, God. Got reception and I was like, I've done a circle. I'm almost back where they dropped me off. What an absolute. And I was most upset. Not that my run was now 14 miles instead of 16 miles, but that I wasn't going to enter the cafe.
Sad times.
So I rang Bryn and I said, I've gone the wrong way. And now I'm so used to this. And I could feel him going, oh, woman. And I said, can you come and get me? And then also, can I have an oat latte and a sandwich? Okay.
Supplies.
I was so hungry. I think the heat training, as you've commented as well, you burn the carbs. And I had 3 90-gram gels, a snack bar, and we don't talk about this very much, but I like the super fuel pouches. They're a little bit gloopy for some people. before.
Never tried them.
So, and I was like, I was hungry. I needed some more. So yeah, he very kindly then. So then we ran down, and as I always do, I carry layers in my pack. So then I was able to change and wait for him to come pick me up. It took ages. Then he arrived, and I was like, oh, I could have run like an extra 5K up and down this bit of road. And he said, oh, there wasn't any sandwiches. I was like, hold it together, Eddie. So I got you some quiche.
I'd be well happy with that.
Would you? And the kids were kids
quiche
were so
trumps a
funny.
sandwich any
They were
day.
sitting in the back and they were like, are you angry, Mum, or are you happy with that? And I was like, oh no, they know me so well. And I was like, oh, it's great. In my head, I was like, I wanted a mozzarella and tomato.
Brain, I'm with you.
It was good though. It was roasted vegetable. And I was like, you're hungry. You're going to feel better if you eat this. So I ate it. Thank you very much. Sorry about the pickup. Sorry. I was so annoyed at myself. And I was like, why didn't you just do the bit? Anyway, still a lovely run. Felt really good. And then, I had a 17-mile day as well. This was an interesting day. Ran the dogs 5 miles in the morning. And then we were joining some friends who had set themselves a little challenge of climbing a Munro every day of the holidays for charity. We decided to smash them.
Bagpipes, excellent.
We decided to smash them on the last day and join them. Evie set the tempo pace up the Munro. She was
Get them in a week.
ahead. Yeah, get them in a week. Are you right there? Oh, I'm a bit tired. They weren't at all. They were amazing. Anyway, they wanted to play the bagpipes at the top, which was brilliant. But the last little bit was really, really windy. It was kind of like, you always get to like that when you get to the top of the mountains, the topography changes often a little, doesn't it? It sometimes becomes rocky or something. This sort of like became flattened out a bit. So the wind was ripping it round and you felt quite exposed because instead of like when you're on a ridge, you can almost like got something to hold on. There was like nothing. It was like you were just on this bit of plateau. Anyway, Eve's had a little like minor little panic attack and was like, oh, really windy, Mum. I don't like it. And she sort of sat down and was going, and I was like, really want to get to the top now. What do I do?
Parental decisions.
Parental decisions. What do I do? I had all the coats, because we always take like full mountain gear, all the food for 4 people, all the water on my back. When you're on a steep gradient, I was already like leaning in, plus my poles. And then she was like, can I hold your hand? And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, right, what do we do in these situations? Anyone with kids or with Gary will know. You just get out the Haribo and you just pour it down them. So I was like, just open up. How many can I have, Mum? The whole packet. Let's saw that down. Anyway, she took my hand and she was like, it was really windy. And I guess if you're like 2 foot nothing, it feels a lot more frightening. So we got a brother on one side, no fear, the no fear brother on one side, me on the other, held a hand, poles in the other hand, backpack over. And I was like, I could actually just fall down on my belly all the way down this, dig it in, and was like, I was slightly anxious that she was anxious because I thought it's absolutely fine. It's just windy, but it was like really, it was, I had checked the wind forecast. So I was like, I don't want her to have a bad experience, but I also know she will be all right. It's a beautiful day. We're just going to get over this bit and we'll get stuff. And as we were going up, some couple of women came down, and instead of what often I've heard from other people, and I've experienced people go, oh, it's really windy up there, or oh, be careful. They were like, you're doing great. By the way, it's a lot less windy at the top. And Eves was like, oh, great. Magic. So when we turned around and came down and we got to this bit that was really windy, we did the same to people going up with like kids, and we were like, really windy here, but it's great. Anyway, she did great. We pulled her up for it. It was only like 10, 20 meters where it was really windy. And then we got to the top. Yeah, the bagpipes came up. We did a little jig at the top. Oh, it's brilliant. I don't think.
But she did it.
And then at the top, she said, we sat down, and because it was less windy, we could get sandwiches out. Oh, nothing like a cheese and pickle squash sandwich. Yeah. In the bag, searching. So Bryn had kindly made the sandwiches. Gave the boys sandwiches, a lot of sandwiches needed for 3 kids, sandwiches. And I was like rummaging, and I was like, where's my sandwich? I can't find my sandwich. I kept looking, it's going to be there. He'd forgotten to make my sandwich. No sandwich ready. I was like, oh God.
Quiche, no sandwiches, no good.
Quiche, no sandwich. I was like, he can't have forgotten to make my sandwich. Anyway, so I thought I'll message him and see, where maybe he's put it in a pocket. Because we even talked about what was going to go in my sandwich. I was so excited. I've already run 5 miles and now I've just done 7 miles up this Munro. Anyway, I went to pick up my phone and I had 8 missed calls from him. Oh God, what's happened? Oh my God, I rang him. My Garmin had detected an incident and said to him, emergency. He was in the car. He didn't know what road we'd gone to drive.
Fantastic.
He was mobilised, coming to get us. And I was like, whoa, we're fine. He's like, I couldn't get hold of you. I didn't know where we were. Where are you? He didn't even know where we were. He just started driving. We're fine. I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to find out where my sandwich is. I was like, now's not the time. Anyway, he was like, oh my God, I was so worried. I was like, well, it's fine. I thought, what has set my Garmin off? I suddenly thought, it's the bagpipes. It's heard or felt the vibration as I was standing like that, and maybe my arm. It must be. That's the only thing. So guys, word of warning, be careful when you're bagpiping. Anyway, we then talked about actually we were a bit stupid we hadn't even told him where we parked the car and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah.
Listen, yeah.
And he hadn't made my sandwich. There was no sandwich. Gary. What am I this is gonna be a low point already. I did have an apple. Is that going to touch the side?
Burned all the Haribos.
The carrots, the Haribos have gone straight down, Evie. So anyway, we came back down. Lovely. Kids had a swim in the lock on the way down. Eddie didn't.
Magic,
no, that would just mess with my heat training. I couldn't do that. Magic day. Yeah. So Evie then said to me on the way back down, she said, "Thank you so much, Mum, for taking my hand and getting me to the top of that. I'm so pleased I did that." You just know how to get me, but also that moment when you think this could go either way, it could ruin you forever, or you just need to be. It helps when you've got brothers as well, because then when we came down it, I just said, it's such a fine line. I said, Rory, just hold Eve's hand. But it was funny because she wasn't frightened at all, coming where you think you'd be more frightened coming down when it was really windy on the bit of technical stuff. But the going up is a bit more anyway. Yeah, I managed to mark that quality. Was it there? Not really sure. Getting the balance, but starting to get my head round now. For race across Scotland, I need to focus. I've studied the map.
August, isn't it?
Libby. It's August, but I'm doing the 100 in June. I know. I'm doing the 100 in June. It's a bit of a risk to take because it is only 5 weeks out from the 200. I want a recce. I think with these longer races, the recce is so important, and I'm not going to have time to recce the whole of the route, but I get 100 miles in then, and then I've been...
You'll get all the infrastructure, no heavy lifting, no admin. Perfect.
Just do it and just jog Eddie. Might even do it in my heat suit. First woman in heat.
Puffer jacket.
So Libby's very kindly shared, she's done it. And so she's shared I started making my list. She's shared her list that she made. So I can start cross-referencing, getting your head in the game a little bit, even if you can't get on the course, that sort of how far, the deets, start thinking about pacing wise, start thinking about how far between checkpoints, or start thinking about where the spicy bits of the course are. Did I get any plus points on my Garmin for a fitness increase? No, but I'd managed. I just held that line, Gary. I held that line and I hold, in the words of Meridius Maximus Diridimus, Gladiator. I just held. And sometimes I feel a bit sad, especially in the holidays when other people are doing mega stuff and mega adventures and mega runs and people that I want to compete against. That's not my time, Gary. And holding my little girl's hand as we climb the Munro, wouldn't change that. Would not change that for a million years. So I'm so sorry now, dear listeners. If you don't want to hear about dog bites and constipation, you might just need to fast forward the next 10 minutes. My lovely, fulfilling story of conquering fears. And here we go. Gary's bottom.
I went to 2 extremes. I was constipated and diarrhea too, all in one week. I got it all done. Longish run. I didn't do the 2 long runs, which I've liked to do. And Saturday's long run wasn't epic. I think it was about 16 miles. Still following the Garmin sessions. I'm enjoying those, Eddie. They show you that on the watch. You got a little dude there telling you how to do press ups or planks or whatever it is the exercise is. Fantastic. Just follow along. No friction. But yes, it was a very interesting week. Started off the week constipated. And this, I'm not going to share who the conversation was with. With all the heat training and all the running, I thought, maybe I'm short on iron. So I bought some iron supplements, increased my iron, and wow, it led to about 4 nights of terrible sleep. Wouldn't say pain, but very uncomfortable constipation. So I've sat...
If you've had babies, you know what that is like.
Oh my goodness, mate.
Yeah, it's not nice. Not nice.
So we're not doing that anymore. I've got a full box of
Okay, forget
iron.
about the iron. We don't need the iron.
And then a dog bite and ended a race, a big, scary race, which I think a lot of people already know is the Northern Traverse. But heat training's going well. I'm slotting that in. So I'll do my treadmill session and then I'll run home. And I'm also replacing my steady runs. Immediately saw how addictive this is going to be. I am heat adapted, Eddie, which is fantastic. So 50 odd %, but I'll probably lose. I might go unheat adapted by the time I do my next session. Yes, if anybody is interested in this, you will need to not just hydrate like a champion, you will need to fuel like a champion. I was in low threshold and mid threshold for all of these heat adapted runs once I got into that over 38 degrees. So yeah, I bonked one of my runs. I just big time bonked. I had no energy whatsoever. I just had to pretty much walk it in. But luckily, or unluckily, it was super hot anyway. And I never dipped into that
Coke.
kind of...
You need Coke.
When you get into that zone 3, and like we said earlier, I can just sit in the garden, lie on the floor in the front room, and you're still cooking. You're like a little boil in the bag for a good 20 minutes afterwards. I send you a picture of it. It's not...
You did. Thanks so
It's not
much.
Rex was just moving on me all the time. It was just too much. It was just too irresistible.
You were both
But yeah,
enjoying it.
you're too much, yeah. But you need to be super careful. I've experienced, and you might have done this too, just the legs feel heavy.
I think you do get over that. I don't get that anymore.
Oh, that's good news. Because, I DOMS after Saturday's run, which was relatively small compared to what I've been doing.
Keep drinking. Yeah, I think a lot of it is probably dehydration of the muscles.
Absolutely loving it though. Really enjoying it. Session wise, I did 4x4, 4x2, 4x1, and 4x 30 seconds on the treadmill. Loads of information here. The incline reduced by 2% from 12% all the way down to 6%. By the time you went through your 4s, 2s, 1s, and 30s, and increasing the speed with every one. That is just such a good session. Then I've zipped up and then ran home through Shotton. When I was a kid, I'm not throwing stone Shotton. Wingate is not exactly cosmopolitan of the northeast by a long stretch, but Shotton was somewhere you wouldn't go to Shotton. They used to have a phrase called the Shotton Axemen, which maybe says something about the village. I think it was like a gang or something like that. So I ran home through Shotton. I was thinking, this is such a good idea because it is, kids are off. So there's not just, I thought normally during the day, there's no kids around to give me any abuse, but unfortunately, no. I need some Netflix inspiration because my Netflix game is pretty poor. So if anybody's watching anything on Amazon, Netflix, Disney, or Paramount,
You've actually listed the channels.
I need some inspiration. I do like, because sometimes some of the stuff I watch, like The Patriot, I have to go back and watch an episode again because I've missed some of the dates, some of the finer little details of the plot. So like a sports documentary, doesn't matter what sport it is, could be snooker, tennis, American football, anything like that. Yeah, reach out with any bits of information. Wednesday, this is where things went a bit downhill for me and my week. So I did my easy run, then I did some strides. Got a little street near where I live. Exactly 100 metres, it's fantastic. So I do my strides and then I walk back to the other end. As I was walking back, the family, which I don't know, I'm familiar with them because they're dog walkers, came out of their house and one of their pets was off the lead. 2 definitely were on the lead. 1 was off the lead. I'm not too sure if they were ever going to put it on the lead or they just hadn't got round to doing it. And this German Shepherd circled me like a wolf. It sounds worse than what it is, but in a nutshell, it took a chunk out of my leg arse with a nasty
Can you
bite.
show us?
I can't, unfortunately. Punctured wounds, and as it bit me, as I was walking away, we exchanged, we had a bit of a chat and said, look, you can't really have that dog off a lead. But there was no, it was fine. They were really distraught actually.
Did you cry? Did you not go? I'd have been like, oh.
Oh, goodness me, yeah, I proper... The F word came out quite a few times, actually. But as I was walking away, I was just visualising Rex eating horse poo, Rex licking his bits and bobs, chewing on his feet, licking mucky puddles. And those German Shepherd's teeth would have done everything that Rex has done. And then they were an inch deep in my leg. Yeah, it was quite stressful. I don't blame the dog. I've got a sensational arse and legs, Eddie. So.
Did you say that to the owners?
I would have made a move. But then I got booked in so it went a bit out of control because I think I messaged you just after it happened, actually. And then I phoned my GP because I thought, I don't remember the last time I had a tetanus. And yeah, they don't either. It's no record of me ever. I have a tetanus at some point in my life. So I'm thinking, shit, I need a tetanus. They couldn't do it at the GP, so they said call 111. And they booked me in, but they started asking me like the nature of the attack, like if it had kind of ravaged my hands, ravaged my feet, if I knew who the dog owner was, all these details. And I knew the line of questioning was basically they wanted to get in touch with the people. And although I knew their faces, I didn't know who they were, but coincidentally, they knocked on my door as I was speaking to 111 just to apologise again. So I passed them over and they give all the information to 111. And then like literally 5 minutes later, I'm being contacted by the local police. Like I didn't want to press charges. Nothing is happening like that. But I was getting really stressed because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to that dog?
It is the right protocol because
it is, yes.
We always say it, like, I'm really sorry about your ass, but your ass can take it. But,
yeah.
You know, a little girl on a
this is exactly
a boy, but riding his bike, like, without the padding.
It did give me some anxiety because I thought I was going to mess up my training. Totally
I knew that
selfish.
was number one. I can't believe you haven't mentioned that before.
Well, yeah, this comes to when I actually went to the hospital with the training. But yeah, ultimately, I'm so pleased it took a chunk out of my backside instead of, like you said, a young child. I couldn't understand. So 111 booked me in with a local walk-in clinic to have a jab.
An STD clinic? Did you have to go and did they take swabs of other stuff as well? And they go, might as well treat you for everything, Gary.
Yeah,
oh, they said that's not. Oh, that's it. See this poster? You got all of that.
That's not supposed to look like that. But they never had any tetanus. I couldn't believe it. I went there, booked in. They booked me in. I didn't just rock up. And they never had any tetanus. So then I had to go the next day because they said if you don't get your tetanus jab within 72 hours,
you could
get a lockjaw and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely immediately dead. This was quite funny. Me and Robbo did a talk at a local school about running, which was quite wild.
You just offered, is this the way you're new? You know, we talked about like social media and stuff earlier. You like, this is how
they were fine with the fee.
The new podcast, the new podcast guests and new podcast listeners, schools. No one else is tapping into that market.
The 6-year-olds couldn't wait to hear about my dragon's backstory. Yeah, but yeah, it was like a sports group in the school, and I think everybody's so focused on football. The girls love dance, all the classic stereotypes. So Rob and I went in and chatted about running. That was great. Wow, I think we were chatting for like 45 minutes, an hour. So the time just went like really, that. All my podcast script got used on them first, tested it out for the live podcast. But I did realise kids have I didn't realise how short a kid's attention span was. So there was questions like, what was the longest race you've ever done? Then I'd say, Dragon's Back race. But then I'd go, oh yeah, go from Conwy to Cardiff, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as you'd gone past Dragon's Back race, the eyes glazed over. Somebody said, have you raced Mo Farah? And I'm thinking, well, technically I have, yes. I've been on the start line, Great North Run. So then I went in this big spiel of like, running's fantastic, much more than any other sport, that you can basically get on a start line with the best in the world. You don't do that many. They didn't care. Yes or no? Have you raced Mo Farah? so I've learned.
I need to be more like these kids. I'm interested, Gary. Excellent. Yes or no?
Yeah, but I loved it. I went in there super nervous because that is way out of my comfort zone. Because one of the things was basically making a career out of something unusual, like doing a podcast. I thought, I'm going to lead them in, I'm going to tease them in. The first question was, who's going to like running? And as a kid, that was pretty much 0 people. And then I was going to go, who likes eating cakes? Who likes eating sweets? Who likes drinking pop? And then, this is basically trail running. Ask them who likes running. The whole class liked running. So my whole script was gone. I'd lost 20 minutes of my act, Eddie, straight away. But it's good, yeah. And I would do it again. If she asked me again, I would definitely go with that. Yeah, it's good.
You've got a future career going into schools. Career.
But we had to follow a Premier League footballer, so it was a hard act to follow.
Do you know who it was? So
goodness me, Robbo did tell me who his name was. We had to sign autographs. They came up at the end with bits of paper and pencils.
This is your dream. This is your dream.
Treadmill tempo session though later on in the day. 25 minutes, 8% on the treadmill. I only did the incline just to stop my phone bouncing off the treadmill. That was the only reason why I did that. It wasn't a planned heat session. So yes, it does look, if people are looking at my Strava, it's like literally I've done a heat session every day. This was not a planned heat session, but I just wanted to see if I could get into that zone 3 on the treadmill, and yes, I did. And it was quite good. I impressed myself because I bluffed myself, similar to you the other week. You ghosted the session. I said to myself when I was going to go to the gym, I was going to do 40 minutes in zone 3, just kind of chugging along, bit harder than cruisy, but you're still in control of yourself. But when I got on the treadmill, we went full beans threshold. Absolutely love it. Entered the Northern Traverse. That is so exciting. All the images, all of the social media, the stories that I've been hearing afterwards, I've absolutely loved. We've got quite a few tales on the trails. Yeah, I absolutely can't wait. Red hot outside. So easy with Rex in the morning and then 6 miles in the heat suit. And this is when I learned the lesson to increase your fuel, because I just didn't fuel enough. Totally wiped me out. I think I walked probably most of the last 2 mile, which is fine because you don't go out of the heat zone. So there's lots of lessons that you learn along the way when you're doing your own heat journey. Went to the lakes on Saturday. I had an absolute blast. It was the English champs, I think, or the UK champs. So my tactic for the day was basically run the lap pretty much before they started. I got to maybe Dalehead before they'd started, so I had a good head start. So I didn't actually really see any of them until I'd finished my run. But oh my goodness, what a glorious day. Loads of people out on the trails. Only in zone 2 for the heat training, but like we mentioned earlier, that did increase my heat
Are we going to
score.
go through every single one of your heat training sessions every week?
I've had to listen to you for the past 5 weeks. God
Yeah, but
damn
I
it.
don't go through every single one of what score I got and
I
what
think
zone I
you'll
got
find
into.
you do, Eddie. If you
No,
listen.
never, ever do I go. And then I got in zone 2, but I didn't increase my score. And then I got to 8%, then I got to 40 minute. Oh,
We've got evidence. We've got about 2 months of evidence of this. Anyway, I'm still productive on Garmin, so I'm happy
thank
with
God.
that.
Oh, thank God.
I'm going to whisper it. I think I'm in better shape than I was compared to this time last year. Just putting it out there ahead of all county tops.
Oh, my God.
I need some positives, Eddie. I need 3 positives. I've had constipation, diarrhea, and a dog bite. So that's actually 4 positives. I need to cancel out those 3, and I need 1 positive to be ahead of the game before negative.
You're ahead of the game just by being you. I hope the dog bite hasn't misshapen your butt. And
I thought I was going to miss out because they said when they dress the wound, don't get it wet. Do not get it wet for 7 days. Keep this dressing on for 7 days. And I thought, well, shit. That's literally what you do, heat training. You got all this minging sweat. So do not take my advice. I chose to completely ignore it. Took the dressing off.
put that out there, you donut.
I didn't do. I'm saying
Next week, Gary, terrible infection.
Well, I thought, I've fallen over on the fells. I've ripped my legs open on rocks and all kinds of germs. So I thought, well, we'll roll the dice.
Yeah, I've had tetanus, be all right. Sew it back on. No problem.
I'm enjoying the sunshine, but the only thing that comes with the sunshine, though, you got to do a bit more maintenance around the garden, Eddie. You've got to trim the lawn, trim the bushes.
If the sun comes out, that bush has got to be trimmed back down. And I said to Bryn, it's just too much just to have a garden. And we just.
Are you a king gardener? Do you like it?
No, it means bending down. I don't mind pushing a lawnmower, and that's about it. Bryn just said it's fine. We're not those sort of people, and it's fine to be. Doesn't matter, a few weeds, honestly.
I don't teach you the layout of your garden, but we keep our garden. Like the front garden will cut.
Yes.
Back garden,
yes.
Chaos.
Front garden, no dogs, but it's the football pitch because it's flat. Back garden, it's a shambles, but it's a beautiful shambles. I said to the kids, like behind the garage, I said, you can build a den here. That started off like, so I couldn't see it. And it slowly moved around into the different areas of all the shooting range and the gun storage and the trap. If you put your foot through it, there's like bamboo sticks and stuff up there. It's like, this
sounds
was
like
just
something of the Vietnam War.
Yeah, this was just a small part of the garden. You were going to like have a little, you can have a little swing, and it's now become a whole war zone territory at mine.
Booby trapped. Love it. Had a good week. There's been lots of ups and downs. As far as mileage is concerned, I'm not really tracking them. I think it's probably over 80 miles. Plenty of vert. Done the workouts.
I'm not tracking anything. I'm just every single percentage.
I do track the elevation. I'm pretty sure I've been about 12,000 feet. Other than that, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, whatever.
Thanks, Precision Fuel and Hydration, for supporting Brew with the Coaches. Their website and newsletter are such good sources of knowledge, articles to read, and YouTube content to binge on. On YouTube, you can learn how to fuel an ultramarathon, what pro runners carry on race day, and how to nail your marathon prep. Check it out if you are London or Manchester bound. Also, yeah, my goodness me, by the time this goes out, if your cupboards are bare, if your nutrition cupboards are bare, then yeah, you
Shame
need
on
to get
you.
your
Shame on you.
to get your orders in. If you'd like to try Precision Fuel and Hydration, then use the code TEATIME2025 for 15% off your first order. And if you're Patreon, then you get a whopping 20% off. Head over to Patreon for all the dates. You'd like to give Precision Fuel and Hydration a big birthday
Happy
shout
birthday
out.
to you. I like the timeline of the pictures that they...
Yeah. They do great social media, actually.
They do a great social media, yeah.
We should reach out. Who does it for them? If you have a question for our coaches, then pop over to teaandtrails.com and fill out the Google form via the Brew the Coaches button on the homepage. I'm a 37-year-old endurance weekend warrior, been doing Ironmans, Audax. What? I've never heard of Audax.
Do you think that's a typo? Do you think she meant high rocks?
Possibly.
Rocks, yeah.
Yes. And running for the past 5 years, I've had low ferritin and nothing seems to resolve this. I would like this segment to be published on BWTC to highlight women's requirements for daily iron and the fact most food and drinks, brackets tea, contains tannins.
Shut up. Remove this question.
Which interfere with the overall absorption. I've also heard that foot strike hemolysis, which when I tell my GP that iron in ladies is lost through menstruation, sweat and foot strike, I get that vacant stare. Any help or awareness you can provide would be appreciated. I can't be the only one suffering and struggling. Should I continue to train through this? My understanding is to do what feels okay, e.g. not too extreme exhaustion while taking the supplements and maybe explore liquid ones or infusion. It really, I always get upset when I hear that people are struggling, and probably quite a few of us have been to the GP and had that vacant stare. Is there any help out there, Bex? What do you reckon?
It's a really important area, and it's great that someone has raised and asked a question about it, because obviously iron is really important for lots of our body's functions, not least main constituents of hemoglobin in our blood, and it allows us to carry oxygen round, but also it's got lots of other roles to do with things like bone health, for example. So particularly for athletes, it's really important that we have adequate iron stores, and women have less iron stores to begin with, and we have bigger draws on those iron stores because of things like menstruation. So it's really important, particularly for women, to think about that, but for all athletes to maintain adequate iron in our bodies is really important. Injury prevention and obviously training effect and all of those sorts of things that you're looking for. There are other ways that we can lose iron because of our training. So one of the things that's mentioned in the question is something called foot strike hemolysis, which is exactly as it sounds. Every time your foot hits the ground, there's a chance that it causes micro damage to sort of capillaries, and you lose blood loss through that. But really, probably the biggest way that we lose iron during exercise is sort of micro ischemia, so blood vessels in other parts of our body, so not least our gut. And that's probably the biggest way that we lose it. But also, exercising itself can lead to an inflammatory response within our bodies, which then stops us from absorbing it the following day or after the training. So again, our stores are used up, and then we can't replenish them as easily. So particularly after races or intense exercise, and I think obviously this athlete in particular is doing things which are quite high intensity and long events like Ironmans and high rocks and things like that. So you're going to have a systemic inflammatory response, which then further inhibits it. And then, as also mentioned, certain foods and things that we can also inhibit it, although we should be getting it from our diet. So things like tea in particular can limit our absorption of it. So we're all sat here with a cup of tea. So we have to pay attention to it a little bit more. And I think in most athletes, it would be beneficial to have some eye on what you're taking in dietary-wise or some sort of supplementation. And once you get into a problem with iron storage, it can be quite difficult to maintain and improve those iron stores, as I think potentially this is what this athlete has found out. The key thing of all of that, though, is we have to be adequately fueled in order to make use of our iron and absorb our iron. So if you're in a state of low energy availability generally, so you're not fueled adequately, that's probably the biggest inhibitor to iron absorption that there is. And again, that's why it's cumulative. So you have less energy, you store less iron, you're then even more at risk of injury. So being on top of your everyday energy availability is probably one of the most important things that we can do. And low-level supplementation will also help. So personally, I take a multivitamin with iron just to make sure I've got some handle on that, and I'm making sure I'm at least hitting those daily requirements for the standard person, because it's amazing how much we might not actually hit that, even though we need extra as athletes. So at least hitting that baseline is really important. Taking it with vitamin C, taking it with vitamin D can also aid that absorption. So taking it as a multivitamin with a bit of extra iron is probably something relatively simple everyone can do. And then, as I say, if you get into problems beyond that, then yes, you'd be looking at sort of prescribed supplementation. There's also mention here about alternatives like infusions and things like that. And that really would be taken in context of whether or not the iron deficiency has made you anemic. And that has to be something which is in a sort of medical setting and, not usually available unless there's a reason why it can't be given by tablet form.
That's so interesting. Thanks so much. A couple of things as well. I would just say that if you are struggling to get your ferritin back up, make sure you tell your GP as well what you're doing. So how much exercise you're doing, because we kind of think it's the norm, I think, as well, that because we surround ourselves, probably all our friends, our social circle, our social feed is this endurance background, that when we go to the doctor and if we have just slightly anemic, as a runner, it's not a good place to be. But it's very hard, as Rebecca said, to get that number back up again once it's gone down below a certain level. And Laura, you say you're a weekend warrior, which just a little red flag came up to me that maybe, and we can be all guilty of this, is that you're really busy during the week and then you do loads at the weekend. And that is just sending that a bit of a spiral. Your body is going really, really tired. And so it's trying to focus on recovery, muscles, tissues, etc., rather than the last thing it's going to do is go, I'm going to replenish your iron stores. In fact, it's probably going, I'm going to dig out a bit. If you are struggling with anemia or slightly anemic, then I think you almost, I don't know if this is what you would say too, Rebecca, is you almost need to spend sort of 6 to 8 weeks focusing on getting that number up rather than the training, and almost back off from the massive volume and keep training, but a little bit less to allow the body to have the signal that it has got the energy to recover.
Yeah, low iron is one thing, but iron deficiency anemia is the next level beyond that. That's when it's starting to affect your actual blood count and therefore the function of your oxygen transport, and all those things that we're trying to boost and improve with training is now at a level where it's actually a problem. So if you're at the level where it's actually causing anemia, then definitely that would require some specific strategy to treat and improve that. And that's certainly talking to whoever's diagnosed that or health professional, but that would require some alteration of training to allow that recovery. As I say, not least because it will just sort of hamper what you're trying to do. And if they keep giving you lots of iron tablets to take, and you're constantly in a sort of inflamed, low energy available state, you're not really going to be able to absorb it as well. So definitely those two things. If you're in a state where you're already anemic, you would need to look at both your training volume as well as the actual treatment.
And in some ways, it is almost like training, because if you can get that number back up, you're going to feel so much better. You're almost going to get fitness from just being able to breathe and recover again. So if you are in this, and I know especially female athletes, lots of people have been in this position or perhaps feeling a little bit like this, that if you can sort of turn your attention to your diet and your recovery for a few weeks and allow your body to recover, you almost you'll let that fitness, I know with anemia, you feel a bit like you're sort of hitting yourself over the head a bit, or hitting your head against a brick wall because you train so hard and then you just feel so tired, and the body just doesn't have the response that you expect it to have. So don't be scared to back off, because actually that in the long term, that is the much more positive and better thing for your body and your long-term health.
And I think it's also important, particularly for anybody who presents with iron deficiency anemia, but particularly women, you don't want everything to be put down to the fact that you have periods. And I think it's important that all causes have been investigated. And I think I would hope GPs would be amenable to investigating other potential causes, for example, undiagnosed things like celiac disease and all that sort of thing. So you would want to make sure you've excluded other causes other than just putting it down. And also, if it is heavy periods, then having some sort of management for that's really important. Otherwise, again, if the blood loss is ongoing, then you're always going to be in a situation where it's a problem. So identifying potential underlying causes and then treating those underlying causes is really important.
One thing, though, you should never, ever do, this is really serious, guys, is give up drinking tea, because that is...
Is to that.
So there's one thing I wanted to say with the iron tablets, having been on the high strength ones myself, the ferrous fumarats. Just something that I've experienced with a lot of the athletes that I coach or run with, the constipation. Is that something we need to talk about? Like, it's really bad. Like, if I have to have all bran if I'm on
prune juice
iron tablets, because it's so bad. Like, I literally can't go for days. And is that because of the iron, or is that just me?
No, that is a side effect, and that's why people do end up looking at things like infusions, because it sort of bypasses that sort of side effect. But we used to use iron tablets in sort of much higher doses than we do now, and what you're trying to do is look at the lowest possible dose you can get away with to avoid side effects, and also because more isn't necessarily better in how it's used and metabolized in the body. So we do try and use lower doses now than
the black. My poo goes black as well. That's
always quite worrying. Yeah.
Okay.
Buy your all bran, buy your prune juice, and just prepare for a bit of squeezing. I hope that helps, Laura. Good luck with your journey, and anybody else. If you're feeling, perhaps we should say what people who might think they're anemic, what are the sort of symptoms that people present with? Usually
tiredness is probably the thing people notice. And then obviously as you become actually anemic, then you may notice that reduction in your exercise capacity or shortness of breath and those sorts of things. But most of the time it will be tiredness. Obviously, you might look pale. We probably don't all look great now coming out of the winter, but you will potentially look a bit pale.
That's the biggest thing I've noticed in what I've had with athletes that have low iron is they are just very, very tired.
Yeah.
You have to really, manage. You do have to manage the training load, and I found that what's worked for me with athletes who are struggling with iron is consistent training, but much lower efforts, much lower intensity, and shorter sessions. And you do have to do what feels okay. You can't push beyond that. You can never push to exhaustion, because the dip from that is just so extreme. It takes so long to come back from. But 100%, from what I've noticed with athletes that I've coached with low iron is they are just very, very tired, and you can see it. It's quite apparent when you talk to them and how they're feeling about their sessions.
What's the pathway, Rebecca? You do the iron supplements first, and if you did think maybe an infusion's the way you wanted to go, would that be a GP situation, or you could buy it online?
There probably would be private providers that do it, because iron infusions can provoke sort of allergic responses. It has to be done in a sort of medical setting, so it's something that's like a prescribed thing, and it has to be a sort of given, like a medication essentially, in a hospital environment. And there would have to be a reason, like you'd have to have not been able to tolerate the tablets or the liquid or that sort of thing because of other side effects. Then you'd go down that route of looking at alternatives beyond that. If you're anemic, obviously, and it's severe, then people get blood transfusions. But ultimately, for low iron, you'd only go down the route of infusions if you couldn't tolerate another preparation of it, because it is, as I say, the hassle of having to have it in a hospital setting or a clinic setting at the very least.
Thanks, Phoenix Light, for sponsoring this week's interview. The best design comes from the actual needs of users. Phoenix takes providing mobile lighting products with excellent performance as the goal, and born for harsh environments as its mission. Never forget why you started, and your mission can be accomplished. The HL1AR/TVTO comes in at 103 grams on the scales. Great for adventures when you might not make it back to the car before the sun goes down. I always take mine even when I was climbing a Munro with the kids and we would be back well before sunset, please the Lord. But you never know, so I always have one in my backpack as well. It's white light, warm light, red light with an SOS feature, a USB-C, which is so handy. What is it that I got? USB-C. I got a new Garmin lead and it had a USB-C, game changer for us all that are doing long races and needing battery packs. Patrons can enjoy 10% off over at www.phoenixlight.co.uk. This week we chat with a former guest, Kate Worthington from Raw Adventures, about her recent Snowdonia Slate Trail FKT. If you're thinking about doing an FKT, like looking at the FKT web page, Holden FKT, this is a great little how you go about it, the planning that goes into it, and also how she's had such a great adventure as well. Enjoy our chat with Kate.
This week, we are delighted to be joined by Kate Worthington. Listeners may remember we've had Kate on the show before, so we're not going to do the AI intro. We're not going to do the where are you, what's a view from your window. People can go all the way back to episode 99 for that. Today, we are all about your solo unsupported round of the Snowdonia Slate Trail FKT. So the stats, Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, roughly 83 miles, 14,288 feet of ascent, and you were comfortably under 24 hours for your FKT.
That's correct. I can't work out feet, so you have to help me. But yeah, about 4,300 meters I work in.
Divided by 3. Roughly, add a bit.
I read your report over on the FKT.com website. Explain a bit about the route. It sounds right up my street.
It's a really lovely route here in sort of northern Uriddi. So it links a number of kind of valleys and landscapes that are all kind of historically connected with the slate industry. You know, there was a large kind of slate quarrying industry in this area, you know, even from like the 1700s right up until the 1970s. And there are still some working slate quarries in the area at the moment. But it kind of cleverly links either disused historical quarry areas and villages to work, you know, still ones that are working. And it goes kind of through the landscape, through valleys, over passes. It doesn't touch any summits, actually. So it's a great route for all weathers, really.
Yeah.
You don't have to rely on kind of good weather forecasts to, you know, and feel like you're going to be exposed on high mountain summits for hours on end. So that lends itself to sort of lovely walking off season as well, all throughout the year. It's a mixture of track, trail, bog, grass, forestry, woodland, gorges, river systems, road. It's just a really nice journey that links kind of villages. You could spend sort of 6 days, you know, enjoying a walk through the area. You can stop off and kind of overnight in all the different villages along the way, past cafes and shops. It lends itself really nicely to sort of multi-day sort of journey.
Is it waymarked?
It is well waymarked, actually. So the route was set up in about 2018 by a chap called Aled Owen. He wrote a book about the route, a guidebook. He conceived the route, and then he worked with kind of local organisations and charities and got some funding and some support from Gwynedd Council, Snowdonia Society. Yeah, inputted kind of roundels on posts. So at various sort of obvious junctions, there's always most cases, there's a way marker. Some areas they've gone a little bit aloof, but then year on year, he's got a team of volunteers and they go out and replace them. So actually, it is actually pretty well waymarked.
How long does a normal, what does he sort of recommend in his book of how many days?
Maybe 6 to 9 days of walking. Yeah. Back in sort of 2018, my husband and I walked it. We walked it in 3 days. So that was sort of like a marathon ultra distance per day. So you could actually split it into 3 days and have like really nice sort of 26 miles, 28 miles, 32-mile day.
Is the climbing set out quite equally over the route?
The way the guidebook's written, actually, it takes you round in a kind of anti-clockwise way from Bangor round to Bethesda in a sort of circular fashion. And I chose to run it in a clockwise direction, actually. But the way the guidebook's written, most of the ascent happens in the first third, whereas I ended up doing most of my ascent in descent in the last third.
What was the reason for going anti-clockwise?
You didn't listen to Aled. You went.
Didn't listen to Aled, no. So interestingly, when my husband and I, Ross, we walked it in 2018, we actually walked it clockwise then as well. I actually kind of pondered on the route, and the route is waymarked in both directions, so you could conceivably walk it in either way.
That's kind of Aled.
Yes, it's just the guidebook was written sort of Bangor to Bethesda. Why did we choose to walk it the other way around? I actually kind of just figured that certain sections I would like to see the viewpoints going the clockwise way around from an aesthetic point of view. I think there was something along the lines of when we were organising our 3-day logistics, it kind of put us back in Llanberis on the third day, which suited us in terms of meeting the dog and meeting Ross's mum. It's sort of like random logistics like that.
Yeah.
And then when I was thinking about planning it for my sort of run, I guess I enjoyed that clockwise direction round. There's notably a section that I really wanted to descend rather than ascend. And I guess when you start looking at the mapping and you start looking at the contours of what you're going to go up and what you're going to go down, I could tell that I'd enjoy going up certain things and down certain things.
I'd always go steeper contour up.
Yeah.
Oh, how does that look coming down?
Yeah.
Especially on a longer run when the old knees start.
Yeah, and seeing like, okay, well, if I go clockwise, then I'll be descending all of that. God, yeah, I've got to hike up those quite steep bits. But then I kind of think if you're going to be hiking up a steep bit, you're hiking up a steep bit. So you might as well hike up the steepest bits and then leave the kind of more runnable downs to run down. So that's what I think about when I'm planning my own routes in the hills, and that's sort of what I try to look at, looking at the route as well. And I quite like the idea of finishing in Bangor at the coast.
Why this challenge though? You've mentioned 2018 there, you did the 3-day attempt. If I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've had another attempt roughly 5 years ago. What is it? Yeah, what is it about this route, this challenge? You've got to invest in it.
That lasted about an hour and a half. I was enjoying quite a lot of running during lockdown. I'd kind of done a few longer runs from home. So in lockdown here in the national park, there was a certain period of time where we weren't technically allowed onto certain mountain peaks. They were kind of closed. So I kind of designed a few routes from home where I could kind of run from my, door to door and kind of do clever little routes around all the areas that were technically closed. And so I was enjoying planning routes like that during lockdown, and I just sort of thought, oh, that's another little route I could do. And I started that in August of that summer, so just as things had opened up again in Eryri, and I sprained my ankle about an hour and a half into the run, so okay. I had to abandon that, and then I didn't come back to the idea until this year. I suppose it's just one of the routes round here that is totally accessible and logical to do, and the other one that's been not sitting on my mind is a Paddy Buckley, because it goes right above the mountains at the back of my house. It's like, why wouldn't you want to do these really nice routes that are kind of local to you as well?
Do you think you prefer these style of challenges, the routes, the rounds? It doesn't have to be an FKT, it could just be a solo challenge that nobody knows about, as opposed to a race?
I do like both concepts for lots of different reasons. Sometimes to conceive of your own route and challenge might throw up extra challenges and barriers in terms of the planning and the sort of putting it all together. I quite like that side of planning and kind of working out, timings and logistics and poring over maps. I quite like that. But then again, sometimes if it's a particular route or journey that is more easily facilitated by the framework of a large event, something like the Dragon's Back race, running the Dragon's Back race in 2021, to do that under your own steam, that would be a really big time out of life and work and everything, wouldn't it? So to do it within the framework of a large event, that totally makes sense. I suppose it depends also what you want to achieve in a certain race. Races that I've looked at and enjoyed entering are usually because maybe you want to focus on your performance, your time against the clock. So then to have the framework and the support is really helpful. But then if you're just interested maybe in the journey and that experience, then I feel fortunate that I've got a certain level of kind of skills I can use to make that happen, and I quite enjoy. I enjoy being out on my own as well.
I hear you talking about performance and times. What was the goal? Was it purely the first known time? I know you mentioned earlier you did sneak under 24 hours. Was there two things going on there?
I'd say there's like multi layers. The bottom line is I just wanted to do something that was quite long. It's like, I don't know what that is. I was looking at entering, some longer races. Like there was some 100-mile races I was looking at. There was 80 and 70-mile races I was looking at, and I just couldn't flex them into the calendar and my training. They were either kind of too soon. I was like, well, I don't feel like I've reached a point where I would easily absorb that, or they just didn't fit into sort of family and work stuff, or they were getting too late in the year this year. So I was really keen to get something done in the winter. So then when I couldn't really find anything, I was like, well, what else could I do off my own back? Came back to the idea of the Slate Trail again. And then I suppose the next layer was, could I do that all in one go? Could I do it on my own? I did look at sort of doing it self-supported last year. I just didn't get the dates off the ground and get it kind of factored in psychologically enough, I guess. I do work with a coach currently, and I sort of dropped it into my sort of like long-term plan as I was looking to do a longer distance. And once I'd sort of floated the idea, that's when I sort of tried to practically find somewhere in the calendar that it would fit. And what it would be. And then the whole kind of doing it in a certain time or in a certain style, they were just like the kind of the cherries on top of the planning. And then the doing it within 24 hours was like, that kind of just came within, the last kind of couple of weeks of planning it and looking at the times and thinking, do you know what? If I get my timings right, I could do this within 24 hours. But that wasn't the ultimate goal.
When you plan your FKT, when you do you have to register pre that you're going to do it, or do you register post?
I did initially a while ago. I guess they might have changed the guidelines. A while ago, I remember looking a couple of years ago, and it did say that you had to sort of announce or make a statement on their website that you were going to try for an FKT, and then they seem to have removed that. So I didn't formally make any announcements in that sense.
I wonder if that's a safeguarding issue.
Yeah, I don't know. But I looked through the guidelines and I didn't seem to find that sort of requirement anymore. So I just kind of sat with it, and I didn't necessarily make any formal announcement.
Solo unsupported, do they have rules of that on the FKT? Because we've talked to lots of people who've done solo and unsupported, and people do it like they're strict on themselves, or they can be like, oh no, because you can go if the shop's open. Though some people have gone, no, you can't go in a shop at all. No, did you set yourself rules?
Well, I follow, I very much followed the guidelines because I suppose because I was starting to look at the fastest known time sites for the records of this particular route, of which there were a couple already. So actually a good friend of mine, Nikki Summers, had run round the route. Oh, I think that was also in 2020 in a supported style. And then there was also another chap who had run in a self-supported style, and the fastest known time website clearly defines these sort of styles of completion. So as you'd expect from both those styles, supported, you would be able to gain support from friends meeting you at roadside, or as we sort of know and understand from sort of supported Bob Graham rounds, etc., and things like that. Or self-supported style, you could buy some food from a shop. You could actually stay in a B&B. If it's available to everyone, to the public, you can take advantage of it. You couldn't sort of sleep in a friend's garden in your tent. Yeah. That would be a sort of advantage to you and you alone sort of thing. But for an unsupported style, then you are taking everything with you that you need. There is a stipulation that you can gain water from kind of public publicly available taps. So I filled up a couple of times from public taps that are available, like refill taps. There's 2 national park public toilets that have refill taps outside them. So I fill my water up from those, as well as sort of natural water sources. But other than that, just sort of carry your own food and don't make any use of anything
Nice.
other than your feet.
How heavy was your pack? Did you weigh it?
I did weigh it, and it was about 8 kilograms, and most of that was food.
Yeah. What were your snack of choices?
Oh my God, I had so much food. I actually had a lot of food that I didn't eat as well. The thing that would make or break me on this time out is sort of nutrition really, because I felt as though I could probably just go, and even if I ended up walking a lot of it, I could probably still just go as long as I was feeding myself.
I'm not too sure if this is too much into the weeds, but in theory, could you leave a bag? You're not going in the shop. You're not actually cashing it. You started, then you've dropped it off and picked it up later on your journey. Like an out and back, that could work quite well on theory.
Yeah, I'd have to double check the guidelines. I think there's something for an unsupported route. If you were climbing a peak or something, you could potentially leave a bag at the bottom of a peak. A bag, I think, but that would have to be checkable. And I'm just sort of
and the risk. I think the risk for the weight ratio.
I was just like, no, I'm just going to do everything as by the book. I just sort of looked at the guidelines and made sure that I kind of stuck within them. You could be tracked. So I did have a tracker. I had a tracker on an open tracking tracker on my bag. My husband could kind of keep track of
what you doing. What you doing?
But he waved me off at the start, and then I didn't see anyone again until the finish.
Why did you choose to start at midnight?
The area of the route that was kind of furthest away to the south of sort of the start point in Bangor, I wanted to be doing that in the daylight, just because I thought some of that in the dark would be a bit slow going. And psychologically, I thought being the furthest away from home, it would be nicer to feel as though it's kind of daylight and everything's hunky-dory, rather than being the furthest away from home and the furthest into the route, where it is actually a bit more remote and you lose a lot of mobile phone signal and things like that, and then doing that bit in the dark. I just kind of worked with the sort of sunrise and sunset times and worked out, where do I want to be in the dark and where do I want to be in the light? And I worked it all backwards. I was like, that means I've got to kind of start at like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning sort of thing. And then I thought, well, if I start at 12 o'clock midnight, then once I press my watch go, the clock, as it were, is ticking, and it will be the same as the real time in real life, if that makes sense.
It makes sense to you, Kate. Yeah, I get it. But I'm thinking then you presumably had then 2 nights no sleep.
Yeah, super tired, yeah.
In theory, yes. So to me, it just felt like a big, massive, long day. So
Yeah.
I started at midnight on Tuesday, the 18th of February. So in effect, I'd been up all of Monday. I did make myself sort of have a good dinner, and then I went to bed at about 5:30, 6 o'clock, I think.
The dream.
And I kind of, I think just mentally going through the motions of, I'm going to get changed and go to bed and go to bed, switch my light off. So I'm going to trick my brain into the fact that I'm going to bed. I think I just kind of rolled around in bed for what seemed like hours. And my husband and my daughter were out. She was at a karate lesson. And then I think I heard them come in at about like 8, 7:30, and the dog barked and they were having dinner downstairs. And I could kind of hear stuff going on in the house, but I was sort of trying to rest. And I think I did doze. I definitely dozed. And then I woke up, my alarm set was for about 9:30, and I kind of woke up and did all my morning routines as if it was morning. It was ridiculous because Libby was just about going to bed, and like Ross was still downstairs watching telly, and I'm like getting up having tea and toast. I'm like, yep, it's morning. I'm like,
oh god,
kidding myself that it's morning. But I think just mentally that tricks your brain into thinking this is a new day. It's like getting up early in the morning, that I normally do to train and get on with the days. And because I suppose it's February, we're used to sort of being in the dark.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows what time it is?
Who knows? Yeah.
By the time we'd driven round and Ross was ready to drop me off in Bethesda, it was about 11:30, and we were kind of faffing around with getting the tracker sorted. And then midnight came, and then I was ready to go. And I was like, new day. go.
Yeah. What was the weather like? What were the ground conditions like? February, Wales. Woof.
Yeah, I was fortunate. So I'd been looking at sort of a longer term forecast, and I'd had this week circled in the diary, like Slate Trail FKT question mark. I'd kind of earmarked that week thinking that it looked like quite an empty week in terms of logistical family travel. Work faff. And I was just sort of quite fortunate that it did start turning out that after quite a rocky couple of weeks and a couple of storms blowing through, quite a lot of trees down in December into January, it was like a dry week before I set off, and that was brilliant because I was like, the ground is going to start drying out just a little bit.
Yeah, just the edge.
Foggy. So I was really grateful that there was like 3 days of dryness beforehand. Someone was looking over me because it just happened to be a window of high pressure in amongst a couple of low pressures. And the Thursday after I'd been out on the Tuesday, the Thursday was rotten. It was awful. I was like, wow, I just feel really blessed. That was just a little window of opportunity. And I did have a bit of flex.
Did you look at the moon? Because I would often look at where the moon was. Don't know how much difference that makes where you are, but if we've got a full moon here, it's almost...
Yeah. I kind of I didn't particularly. I think actually if I was doing a challenge that would see me out on the higher hills, summits for hours on end, I think I would look at moon phases. I was just after a full moon. There was a moon.
Yeah, you still get a bit of... I find as well when there's a full moon that it's easier to stay up all night. And I don't know why. I think it's the werewolf that lives in the...
I don't know. Full moon's doing crazy things to dogs and hormones, I think. So,
don't they just? I don't think men have the same thing, but I know definitely I can prowl the corridors on a full moon night.
Yeah, no, so I was lucky. And the weather, it was quite cold and windy to start with. So when I was setting off at midnight, sort of quite a lot of layers on, and that was quite cold and windy through Ogwen Valley. But the wind died down and it was sort of stable pressure, good visibility, even some sun.
You were like, this is meant to be. How did you feel then, like sort of setting off? Were you nervous, or was it like once you got going, were you like, yeah, I'm out here, I'm a strong, confident woman?
I do remember being nervous. I don't know. Yeah, I was nervous, but also a bit excited, and also just kind of like, I just want to get going now. Get running, please. Yeah, it was kind of exciting just to go off and start running and then think, I've got quite a long way to go.
Lots of people, especially women, would be very nervous about going off into the dark, into the night and running through the dark. Do you get nervous about that? Was that on your radar?
Yes, I was aware that it would cause me to feel, as in I would feel it, but I guess also the way I'd planned where and when I'd start sort of thing, I knew that I would be on more familiar sections in those darkness periods. I guess I had done as much as I could possibly do to mitigate some of those feelings of being a bit nervous at night. I had recce a few random bits that I knew that I would be out in the dark, like bits where it goes through kind of farms. And
I love a farm in the dark when there's just the cattle or the sheep. I love
Don't stop
it.
barking.
Oh no, I love all that. We have a bit of a chat, me and the dogs, and they're like, what the hell are you doing? I chat to the cows and the sheep. I love it. I love running through the farm. Yeah, no,
I suppose I know. Also, I mean, the route doesn't take you through anywhere that is particularly built up. Not running through sort of urban spaces in that sense, which to me would feel a bit more kind of weird and wonderful at stupid o'clock in the morning. I was more nervous of setting off from Bethesda at midnight because I was like, I don't even know if there's going to be folk hanging out in cars, random parking spots, which that does happen around here. Yeah, there was a few moments where I was like, because I had to go through a park at the beginning. I was just a bit that's when I felt most on alert.
Yeah. And I do think as well, once you've settled into it for a few hours in the dark, it's amazing how much that sort of cortisol comes down as well. And you'll get quite used to there's a comfortable place you sort of find in the dark as well, isn't there?
Yeah. And I suppose I was fortunate that I was going along trails that felt familiar. I've been along them before. I use them as training runs. So I guess I felt familiar with the kind of vibe that I would expect to. That was helpful. So it wasn't completely new territory or new ground, which I guess may help. And I refrained from kind of playing anything in my kind of earbuds for a little while, because I just wanted to tune into where I was, what I can hear. I just wanted to be like aware of everything around me.
The eyes glinting in the forest.
all the sheep looking at you with
the sheep. You're like...
I love that. It's such a treat. You just wouldn't see these things if you weren't a runner or an adventurer going out to explore these paths. You mentioned about music or what you were listening to. Yeah, what was distracting you?
I had 3 Tea and Trails podcasts lined up to listen to.
Oh, I had 6 hours sorted.
6 hours of Eddie and Gary. You're a hero. You're a hero. You should.
How many times did I say, "Oh my goodness," or "Heavy Flex"? Oh wow, that's got to be off the chart.
So I listened to the one Kerry Wallace about
awesome.
Way. So I saved that one, and I was listening to that while going along in the dark.
On your own as a woman, going, "Oh, Kerry, wish you were here."
And I listened to Shane Oley's one as well. I listened to those all in the dark at various points. I listened to one at about 5:30 in the morning. That was the first one I put on, because I was like, well, I know it's going to get light in a bit. And that particular section I was on in some forestry was like, this is a bit dull now, and I just want it to get light.
That desperation of the dawn.
So I just,
CD, I call it. Desperation of the dawn. Come on.
I put a podcast on then just to take me into the light. And then I didn't listen to anything in the day. The day was the day. And I just kind of trundled along with my own thoughts and songs in my head. And then I put Kerry's podcast on just after sunset. Yeah, just to kind of buzz me mentally along a couple of hours. Yeah. And then I put Shane's on, I think that was probably about 8 o'clock, just to kind of take me to it for another couple of hours. And then I'd be like, okay, well then, and then after that podcast is finished, I'll probably have an hour to go and then I'll be done. Yay.
Well, the podcasts are obviously the highest of highs. What about low points? Any slumps?
I definitely did have a slump. I think my slumpiest slump was about 19 to 20 hours into the whole journey. And I think that was probably more nutrition related. I think I'd been doing quite fine nutrition wise generally, but I just think I was probably consuming just about enough carbohydrate per hour, but probably, just as the hours go on, just a slight dip, another slight dip. And then come sort of 20 hours, I was like, I feel grumpy. I'm coming through Llanberis, which is like the closest to home. I was like, I've probably got another like 3.5 to 4 hours. And it's like, I could just stop now and no one will know, because it's not like...
We will.
It's not like I'm in a race or anything. Or it's like, I haven't even said to anyone that I'm doing this. Like Ross knew, and I mentioned to another good friend, and I was like, so I could just stop but no one would be none the wiser. But then I was like, no.
Yeah, you've got to have that conversation now. I think it's fine to have the conversation. It doesn't mean that it's the reality and it's going to happen, but I think it's important for you to discuss that with yourself.
What do I need to do in order to sort of make this next 3.5, 4 hours kind of goable? You need to eat. I have been trying for a couple of years to kind of be able to tolerate higher loads of carbohydrate, but I just don't seem to be able to absorb. I think I've got a bit of a malabsorption issue, kind of digestion wise. I don't seem to cope well with all the various sort of sports nutrition brands that I've kind of tried over, say, like the last 2 to 3 years, where I've been like systematically trying to go through things and increase my tolerance. But I had got like a number of Velo Forte chews stuffed in the back of my bag. I was like, these are going to be my go-to. Like, if I need them, I'll smash them. But if I was going to be doing that all day, 6 hours into my run, I probably would have been running around with, severe kind of bloating and cramps. I kind of saved these sports chews towards the end of the journey, where I thought, well, if I get kind of bloated and tummy ache, I'll be home again soon, so it doesn't really matter.
No, it sounds like... Any standout bits of kit you used that you thought that was what was your backpack?
I've got a trusty Montaigne Gecko 20 litre, so that served me really well. So I carried like 2 litres of water, as well as all my food, and then some standard long run kits that I'd take out in the winter. I was actually in a sort of a pair of Ultra Olympus 4s, so like the old 4s.
Oh, classic.
They're a new pair to me. They'd been like sat in the cupboard just waiting for this moment.
They've been in your cupboard for years. I think they got the Olympus 6 out now, Kate.
No, catch up, lady. I'm only on the 4s. No, I found a website where I managed to get a couple of new pairs of 4s even. I haven't tried the 5s or the 6s yet. I've been told that the 5s don't last very long and I should bin the 5s and move straight to the 6s.
I've got the 6s, but I've never ran in the 5s or 4s. But from what I hear I did a YouTube review and a few people reached out, and I think the 4s were the shoe to have.
Were they the ones? Wow.
Keep them in your cupboard. Keep them for your next FKT. Okay, you're downing your Velo Forte. What are they, the cube gel things? And you're heading into Bangor. How does that feel? Can you see it a long way off? Can you see lights start twinkling?
So out of Llanberis, you have to climb up quite steeply through some woods and onto some high sort of upland terrain through a village area called Mynydd Llandagai, and then from there you get a really nice view over to Bangor and to the Menai Strait and to Anglesey beyond. So then you can start to see lights of Bangor, but you have to then descend into Bethesda and then ascend out of Bethesda again. But that kind of long descent into Bethesda is one of the descents that I wanted to descend rather than climb up, and it's notoriously boggy, always boggy. It's never dry in there. So I was listening to Shane's episode through there, so that made that tick by quite nicely. Then it was just a question of kind of eating and drinking and keeping moving, really.
Was Ross waiting for you? Did you know you were going to have a smooch at the end?
I did know that Ross was going to pick me up, and I think a couple of other friends had made their way there as well. So my good friend Tabitha and friend Jason were at the end as well, which was really nice.
What's it like finishing an FKT versus finishing a race? Is there a bit more sense of satisfaction?
Well, I was wondering, did you get the post-race blues?
It was really weird finishing. It was just like, oh, I just stopped running.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit weird.
No one's making you a cup of tea, your hero,
fanfare,
your
is there, I
medal.
suppose.
I did get some whoops and cheers from Ross and Tabitha. It was really nice to see them. And I did have a bag of, layers that I wanted to change into, and Ross had gone.
The glamour.
I did say to Ross, I said, oh yeah, this is one of my motivations for being able to get in before 24 hours. I was like, Ross, if I get in within 24 hours, like before midnight, it means that you can drive past McDonald's and get me some they close at midnight. So,
did he do it? Did he bring you the chips?
Yeah, I think he came with some chicken bites and some chips, but they had gone a little bit cold.
To be fair, he's been a bit of a hero because he's given up 2 nights just to drive you round.
I know. So it was a bit of an ultra for him as well. And he was kind of looking out for me on the tracker and stuff.
Oh, yeah. The person lying in bed on the tracker, they're the heroes, aren't they? When you wake up and you're like, where are they? What would you say, Kate, to perhaps other women that are thinking about planning these challenges?
Yeah, I think it's actually the joy was finding a goal that was flexible but kind of suited me. I think actually more so than trying to fit yourself into a particular race, for example. So a race might be on a certain date, it might be a certain distance, it might be a certain elevation. You've then got to kind of flex yourself to meet those requirements of that race, which is sometimes the real motivator and, makes us train harder and gives us a goal to work towards, but then also finding something that you can flex that then suits you, so you kind of stay in control of those planning variables. I think that's what can benefit us. So it might be a distance, whatever that distance might be, short, medium, long, whatever, that might be close to home. And I think if it's a route that already has some information about it, whether it's a known walking route or a long distance route, then there's lots of sources of information to pick up from, isn't there? There's so much information out on the internet now.
Do you think people get put off because they think because it's not a race, it'd be too easy to stop?
Yeah, I wonder if that, I think I did find as though I was like, I'm glad I've got some kind of mental capacity here just to endure what essentially did feel a bit boring sometimes.
Yeah.
It's really awful, doesn't it? Because
I kind of get that.
Ultimately, it's like a joyous route. I had beautiful weather, it was beautiful views. But then at some points I was just like, well, this is just me trying to
it's a long time with your own thoughts. Never a good place.
Do you think that's a difference between someone who's like externally motivated, maybe by the finish or the medal, or somebody who actually just loves being out there? Yeah, if I was externally motivated, maybe that would be a bit easier for me to stop.
My deep motivation came from a sort of putting this thing on my radar, and B, really wanting to finish it.
Because you've been looking for sort of like a big challenge for a while, hadn't you? And various things have popped up and they're not worked out. So you wanted to like almost prove to yourself you could do these hard things.
That kind of kept me going. Definitely, there wasn't the extra framework to support you through that. Whether that's sort of checkpoints, support from marshals,
just other people being awake.
Yeah, I suppose you have to be very comfortable with you and yourself and why you're doing the certain thing that you're doing. But also, I guess there was that degree of flexibility there. So if the wheels fell off and it didn't work out, and maybe I didn't know, maybe my body wasn't going to let me go around 83 miles all in one go. I kind of had no idea. That was what I found quite intriguing about it. If it didn't work out, I felt like I hadn't lost too much. I hadn't paid entry for a race. I hadn't driven up to somewhere to stay for the weekend. I hadn't bought new kit. I hadn't, bought a race entry. I hadn't kind of whipped up a frenzy in my own head or told other people about this race. There's no stress. Like, if I don't do this, I'm going to be pissed off, but it's only me. I don't have to kind of deal with any extra factors.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. How was recovery afterwards?
That was one thing that I was also quite interested in, and this is what I was sort of talking to my coach about, is that I'm not only am I interested to know how my body absorbs the doing of the distance, I'm really interested in the process of recovering afterwards, because actually, even though I've enjoyed running, throughout my adult life, and I do train quite regularly, I don't have a wealth of experience of doing big, long, one effort things, so the longest race that I've done is like a 50 miler. I've done multi-day races, and I've done multi-day sort of journeys and expeditions, 50, 60 miles on a Dragon's Back day after day after day. I was like, I've never done anything longer than that. I've never done a 100-mile race. That was all kind of quite sort of new and interesting. And recovery is going well, because I'm still on a kind of March was like a recovery training block. Yeah, my calves and my feet were pretty sore. Generally, I was okay. Although a few days after, I did get, I was quite sick and had tummy upset, which I did wonder was from some water. The penultimate time I filled up my bottles, I definitely shortcutted a couple of decisions and thought, I just fill it up from this stream. And I definitely remember thinking, I can't bother to get my filter out. And I wonder if I just drunk some dodgy water. Recovery has just been about letting my system kind of recover again and training. I am kind of training again, but my volume is much lower, and I'm just focusing on sort of keeping strength work going. I'm just starting to build in a few more sessions now, building up my hill reps again and longer sessions. But I've been out working with Dragon's Back clients in March and some recce days. So yeah, generally all pretty good. Yeah, the last long race I did was the Seven Valleys Ultra. So that was last September. I covered fairly well, but a few days after, I then got COVID. I was like, interestingly, my body is physically fine, but my immune system must be pretty not. And and then again, I was like, I've done the Slate Trail. I feel actually okay, considering the physicality of it, but I'm definitely tired. And look, and now I've got like a infection. So it's like, muscles are fine. Immune system, maybe not.
And often people's immune system as well compromised for like quite a few months.
It takes ages.
It just take a long time to bring that back. Talking about, have you got anything else planned then for this year?
I'm going to maybe look at some shorter fell races over the summer. In my head, I'd like to do like a 100-mile race like in the winter. And that will be a race that will be, I will enter a race that is kind of well supported. I'd like to focus on the distance and completion of the distance in a good style. And then, forget all the kind of having to like plan it all myself and do everything myself. I'm just going to enter a race that is well supported. And then I can just actually go with the running and kind of see how I can run 100 miles.
What would be a good 100 miler, winter 100 miler? I'm just trying to think. 13
Nutrition.
Valleys is September. Yes,
Yeah.
nutrition. Yeah.
No, there's
Autumn
a
100.
few. Yeah. So I've looked at, there's a few that I've looked at anywhere between sort of October and next January. I haven't looked at my calendar, which one's going to work, but in my head, in my diary, it says 100-mile race.
I love that. It will come to you.
And and I kind of think, well, I've enjoyed the 83 miles that I did with quite a lot of ascent,
And had hell of a lot of ascent.
with and within that 24-hour period. So I was like, well, if I can kind of focus on my training, so really good recovery block, and have no races on my agenda for spring, maybe something like Snowdon race in July, which is a great one for building up some sort of speed and strength up and downhill again. Not about kind of long distance, not about kind of massive endurance over hours.
Yeah,
It's like 2 hours of sheer up, down hell.
Prefer to run 83 miles.
But that will kind of shift my training focus over the summer, and maybe like a warm-up race in the autumn, like 30 to 40 miles during my training block towards the 100-mile. And that'll be it.
Some Slate Trail recce days for everybody that's going to go now for your FKT.
Yeah, that's cool as well, isn't it? Because I kind of ultimately...
Yeah, it's the point of it, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe it will get whittled down and someone will run around it in like 15 hours and I'd be like, I know, but that's cool. I was the first.
Yeah, so it's much harder being the first.
You're just holding on to it. It's brilliant. Should we do the quick 5?
Yeah, I saw you change some questions mid chat.
Okay, it can't be running. How would you pass the time on a day off? You can't even go on the hills. Something completely...
Oh, Gary, what day off is this?
Walk the dog and then definitely brunch somewhere. I love brunch. I wish I could eat brunch like all day.
Do you? What's your brunch menu?
Oh, anything with eggs, avocado, or maybe like pancakes, bacon and syrup, or
salmon. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Roasted tomatoes. I don't know. And then I like a good mooch around the shops. Like sometimes I go to Conwy. That's a really lovely place to mooch around. Always find a gift shop, a bookshop, a cafe stop. I love going to the cinema. I'm very happy.
Yeah, you can fill that day. we thought you were going to struggle. You're not. You've just gone shopping, brunch shopping, a little cinema trip.
No, you'll find me in a gift shop buying something random.
I love a gift shop, especially like little bespoke little
I'll be outside.
Like a couple of cards,
ceramic thing,
little dish, little jug.
Yeah.
Anything, a little mug. I'm a sucker.
Fridge magnet.
Yeah.
First drink of the day: coffee, tea, juice, whatever.
It's always tea with milk and half a sugar.
Do you move off the sugar as the day progresses, or is it sugar all the time?
I don't drink tea other than that first tea in the morning, and then I have a coffee at about anywhere between 9 and 11, but that doesn't have any sugar in it. And then I tend to drink kind of water.
So 2 caffeinated drinks a day. Wow. I have 2 while I unpack the dishwasher. 6 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, you're in Conwy. It's 11 o'clock. You're going to have a coffee. Is it going to be
11
sweet,
p.m.
sweet or savoury for your treat?
With the coffee, something like a cinnamon bun. That would be amazing.
Oh yes.
Or the brunch. Yeah, coffee in the brunch.
Cinnamon bun is a 10 out of 10 treat. Is there, with the FKT, was there a particular type? It seems like there was multifaceted terrain, from steep climbs to lovely trails to even like running through villages and stuff like that. Is there a favourite type of terrain that you like to be on?
Rolling, hilly terrain that's not too spiky and rocky. Like running up in the lakes is super nice. Unless you're in the Central Fells, around Scarfell area, which is a bit more bouldery. But some of the running in the lakes is just glorious. Or the Black Mountains down in South Wales, where the terrain is kind of quite rolling, might be quite kind of grassy, maybe from like sheep grazing, or that kind of terrain is lovely.
Grassy descent. Oh,
yeah.
And relive your childhood.
With some kind of rocks and trails and kind of off path stuff thrown in, but just not the kind of the tussocky, boggy grounds that you get some, in areas around here, certainly in Eryri. Some of it's not as goable, but some of the running in the lakes is just glorious.
I love a grassy fell. So even though if you trip, you're not really going to hurt yourself.
Yeah, like the Newland, like the hills around the Newlands Valley, Dalehead, that kind of whole circuit, things like that.
That run into Braithwaite, say Lakeland 100 route once you've come out of Buttermere, you can do your damage. If you're actually on race day, you can do some real damage coming down there on your quads, but what a run in. All of that actually is in Barrow and all those kind of little summits. Loads of fun. Okay, it's Instagram story music time, Kate. I can't remember. I should have checked back. Bad of me. Can't remember what your Instagram story music was last time, but what's it going to be?
Well, last time it was "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning."
Oh, yes.
This time I'm going to go with "Speed of Sound" by Coldplay. So I don't know. I just find that a really uplifting tune, and I resonate with it with really happy memories because it was also played on sort of the wedding album sort of film that we produced for our wedding photos. So whenever I hear that song, it takes me back to imagining myself watching our wedding photos. And I like the lyrics, and I find it quite an uplifting tune.
I love that. I love a bit of Coldplay too. Kate, thank you so much. Congratulations. Awesome FKT. Awesome. Kudos. Heavy flex. Awesome route. And thank you for sharing just a tiny little bit of how you planned it, how you approached it, actually being out there as well. And hopefully if you are thinking about along the same sort of lines, that picking a race might not be for you, or it might just not fit into life at the moment. There doesn't have to be a race. You can train and go out and set yourself a big challenge. And we should say as well, you can make your own FKTs. It doesn't have to be, you can make your own route. So it doesn't have to be a national trail or a waymark trail. You can do your FKT. Gary has a number around Wingate.
Greg's and back.
FKT. Good luck with the rest of the year. Keep us posted, Kate. And we look forward to having you back. Probably let's say, it'll be about episode 60 when you say, how I popped my 100 cherry.
100 miler, yeah. Awesome.
Thanks,
Kate.
much.
Thank you,
Take
Kate.
care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Harrier Trail Running, for sponsoring our Strava Club and the Tales from the Trails section. Harrier is the UK's fastest growing brand for trail runners, providing specialist kit designed for superior fit, comfort and function with the best customer support. Check them out for race vests, waterproof poles and other trail essentials at www.harrierrunfree.co.uk, where you can also download your free copy of How to Run an Ultra Guide. Use the code T10 for 10% off site-wide, or check out their brilliant trail bundles for a special 20% off. Harrier have just launched the Harrier Pro Trail team, partnering with some of the UK's top trail and ultra runners. They'll be training and racing in the latest Harrier gear, pushing it to the limit and helping Harrier make their products even better. They'll be testing the brand new range over the summer, ready for the autumn launch. It does sound like a super exciting project, and the Harrier Pro Trail team will be pulling back the curtain on what it takes to compete at the sharp end of the UK trail running scene. Expect training insights, race day tactics and behind the scenes story from some of the best in the sport. On Thursday the 24th and 25th of April, Sana Duthie will be attempting to break her FKT record on the Pembrokeshire Coastal Path, so that's not long. Oh my goodness me, good luck, Sana.
I had a look at it though. It's really good time. 51 hours and a bit of change before. Kudos for going back and going, I can find some time in that, because I think that is a really cracking time anyway. So I'm really excited to see how that unfolds. Fingers crossed the sun comes back a little bit too.
I'm not really too up to date with the FKT scene, but I would have thought a lot of people wait for maybe somebody to break the FKT to then go back and reclaim it.
She must know I can take time out of that just with the experience of having done it before.
Sam Skinner, previous guest, also will be racing the UTS 100 miler in May. I'm pretty sure Sam did spine.
Yeah, he did finish with Robin.
Oi, Sam. Imagine that. How old Sam? He's probably 20 years younger.
Yeah, but Laura's gone back and done Northern Traverse.
Goodness me, I forgot about that.
Not advising it, but it can be done.
Callum Pritchard has the Ridgeway Champs 86 miler, 31st of May. And Callum is an ex-Royal Marine turned running machine. And Sana and Callum, they will be keeping Eddie company races across Scotland in August.
I need to find out what deets they know. What do you know?
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled. This sounds ace. Sean Stiles kicks off for our Strava Club, 62.5 miles for the week, longest run of 31.4 and a total elevation of 10,712 feet. How do you pronounce this, Eddie? My pronunciation is going to let me down here. 31-mile Rassus Recce on Saturday, done a speed session and steady miles and lots of miles shared with friends too. But I wonder which one he's doing. They have 100k, 45-mile. Well, I don't think he's doing the marathon if he's doing a 31-mile recce, but all of them, look spicy. Next up is Kerry Gallagher, 76.1 miles for the week, longest run of 20 miles and 1,791 feet of vert strength, long run. She got a 30k PR that week. Course record crown. They are so rare, Kerry. Kudos for that. Walks, workout, great week. Heavy flex, Kerry. Last up was Chris Nielsen, 76.1 miles to 31.4 for the longest run and 5,768 feet of vert. 32-mile long run. Strava said that was Chris's second fastest 50k. Good hilly runs, hill session. He did a 5.5-mile run with 2,000 feet of vert. That is, that's pretty spicy. He's also bagged a local legend to smashing it. Helen Newman had posted, it's a bit of a heavy flex. I don't normally give myself a heavy flex or any flex at all, but this weekend I ran 100 kilometers in 12 hours on a treadmill overnight from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. Why, oh why, oh why? I can't quite believe I survived having not run on a treadmill for more than 25 minutes. Goodness me, I was just about to say a walnut shed for distraction, but tea and trails certainly helped. So this was part of a scientific study to see if adjusting sleep patterns prior to an ultramarathon can help performance/recovery. Very interesting. Sleeping more than normal sounds heavenly, but it was surprisingly hard work. I would highly recommend volunteering for studies as you can learn a great deal about yourself. Yeah, definitely. I'll echo that, especially if you're a woman. I think there's loads of studies out there, blokes, especially young 20-odd-year-old men, but maybe not so many for women. And if there's anything positive that comes out of that we can then take into races, I'm all for that. James Dowdle would like to give his wife a shout out. I just wanted to give a shout out for my wife Jude and her friend Rachel, who completed the She Ultra last weekend. She's battled with various injuries for years now since turning 40, although she still tells everyone she's 28, but has turned a corner since taking both of your advice. Last year, getting in the gym and lifting heavy. I'm so incredibly proud of her for everything she's achieved and not giving up when the chips are down. P.S. We both absolutely love the show and have adorned ourselves with plenty of tea and trails merch. P.P.S. Oh, he knows I'm an Ultra fan. Gary, the Ultra Experience Wilder, even better than the Mont Blanc. Wash your mouth out, James. There is not a better shoe than the Carbon Mont Blanc. Talking about She Ultra, some She Ultra deets. 1,369 starts, 1,350 finishes, only 19 DNFs. That is unheard of for a race with that amount of vert. And this figure keeps going up and up and up. But last time I looked, 60k raised so far. That, my friends, is a heavy flex. Tales from the trails.
I was bitten by a deer tick in the Lake District on the 3rd of October 2024. I was a newbie to the lakes. I'd only run in the lakes once before in May during the Lakeland 3-day event. It was here I fell in love with the mountains. It was a deer tick. It was in for over 24 hours and it gave me Lyme's disease. I was unlucky. Lyme's disease is rare and preventable. Simply wear DEET and brush yourself after being in long grass or heather. After 6 weeks of feeling a bit meh and no rash, I ended up in hospital with stroke symptoms caused by Lyme. I got facial paralysis on the right side, a lovely look, right side weakness, slurred speech, and weird stuff with my brain. As it presented like a stroke, I was admitted to hospital for a few days. I knew it was Lyme, so was never really worried. I'd been for a blood test just that morning at the GP's. I'd already booked the Lakes Traverse for 2025, and that first night in hospital, I thought, oh man, why didn't I get the insurance? Surely this is off. I didn't ask her to write this. I asked her to write the story, but I didn't ask her to write this sentence, but I'll read it anyway. But of course, my amazing coach replied, no way it's off, not on my watch. And you don't mess with Eddie Sutton. I'll have to say, while Jo was in that ward suffering from stroke-like symptoms, it was very frightening, but she made me laugh so much because we started the dialogue of she was in a ward with old ladies, the dialogue of all the old ladies. She made friends with all the other old ladies.
Oh, right.
Babs, I remember Barbara. She was very confused, but lovely lady. Anyway, this is where I began another love affair with walking. At first, I walked to the bottom of the road, then had a nap and gradually did more and more. Thanks to Eddie's wisdom, I never pushed the recovery. We made use of my indoor bike walks, and eventually in December, I started slow runs. I was lucky that my main symptoms were brain-related, as I lost the ability to use simple words, follow multiple conversations. I couldn't read, watch TV, do simple maths. I developed a stutter. I couldn't drive, couldn't read maps, and unfortunately couldn't do my job, which was in communications. I had to live in silence, so walking was therapy. Nature was healing, as I healed my body with antibiotics, herbs, infrared saunas, hyperbolic oxygen therapy. The brain came back slowly. It was a joy when I caught myself singing Christmas songs whilst driving my son to school. Eventually, I learned to do normal things again, even read a map. I got back to work full-time on the 1st of April, and I got to the start line on the Lakes Traverse on the 5th of April. I had won just getting to the start line. I was just going to see what would happen. I was scared my brain would overload and I'd shut down in a mountain, but Eddie helped me reframe it all and work out a plan if it happened. I'd be okay, and I was. It was the best day of my life. I planned to be alone the whole time, as worried conversation would be too draining for me and I'd want to protect my energy. But after a few miles of blissful actual running, a lass turned around with the biggest warm smile and said hello. Her name was Laurie, and we stayed together the rest of the way. She was nearly not at this race at all, too, so we were both just throwing the dice and seeing what happened. At times, I was doubled up laughing on the trail. I didn't know this was possible. We had so much fun. In fact, I had so much fun I forgot to eat and drink in times, which bit me on the ass coming down to Grasmere, but I sorted it out. Climbing up Tongue Gill in the night, seeing a sea of head torches snaking down the valley was magical. We got to Patterdale slightly later than I planned, but to be honest, I never looked at the time once. I chose fun over speed. We laughed our way out of Patterdale, determined to finish. We moved through the darkness and marvelled at the night sky. Haweswater was a drag, but we moved along until the sun came up, and I was in awe of the fact we'd experienced a full day from sunrise to sunrise in nature, a dream I'd had for years. As the birds woke up and the sky got brighter, the emotions bubbled. We thought a ruin was Shap Abbey, and when we realised it wasn't, we manically cursed the thing and laughed at there still being more moving to do. Then the tears came. It hit me. I was about to finish. Laurie thought she was falling asleep on her pole, so I got us to run a bit, then walk a bit, then run a bit, and the last bit, just as we started. When we hugged on that step, I was overwhelmed. My family were there, the medal was around my neck, and I had the privilege to spend just over 24 hours in the most beautiful scenery with the loveliest people. An impossible dream come true. How lucky am I? Thought that was a really important story to tell. Not only just amazing resilience and come back from a really nasty, you could almost call it an injury, couldn't you? The power of the mind, power of some wanting to get to something. The power of a start line was incredible. That drove Jo on, that she wanted to get to that start line. I really think that helped with the recovery. But we need to be more aware of tics as well.
I've never given it that much thought. Well,
no. It's
quite sobering, actually. Thanks, Jo. Thanks for sharing that.
And kudos, Jo. Well done for finishing that. And now I know she's got even more big, exciting start lines on her future. Thanks for all your reviews and Tales from the Trails, heavy flexes. Keep them coming. We love them. Send them over to hello@teaandtrails.com.
Thanks, Protein Rebel, for bringing us home. Whether you're trying to get a PB or you could be training for your first ultra, Protein Rebel's products are easy to digest with no artificial additives, providing both performance and overall health benefits. If you would like to try Protein Rebel and use the code T15 for 15% off your first order, my collagen is on its way. I'm not joking.
That. I got an alert. I don't know why on my watch this morning when I was running, it said, Gary Thwaites, your Protein Rebel order has been shipped. What's that coming through my Garmin?
I'm not sure why. I'm not too sure if it's connected, if it's like psychosomatic or what, but my left knee, listeners, woof, 2 years ago I had a little grumbly knee.
We can find it, yeah.
It's not even a 1 out of 10 pain, but I am definitely aware. It's like a little, oh, hello there. Remember me? Anyway, yeah, just like Precision Fuel and Hydration, if you're a fan of Protein Rebel and you were doing, say, Manchester or London Marathon, get your orders in. I'm pretty sure this is the busiest time for any of the nutrition companies out there. Yeah, so don't leave it too late. Competition time, though. We have 2 awesome head torches from Phoenix to give away this month. You could be in the chance of winning a Phoenix headlamp, and all you need to do is pop over to Instagram. It is an Instagram only competition. You need to like the post over on Instagram, share the post over on Instagram to your stories, follow us, Tea and Trails, and follow Phoenix Light UK. And in the comments, tag a friend who you love lighting up the trails with. This competition closes at midnight on the 30th of April 2025. This competition is for Instagram only, and 2 winners will be contacted by direct message.
Oh, aren't you just the giver? I tell you who else is the giver, Gary. The Easter Bunny. Will he be hopping round your garden this weekend?
I've told them not to buy me any chocolate. Do not.
I did wonder where this conversation would go. I thought, are you going to... I'm going to ask you this question, Gary, and I think we all know the answer. So when you get your Easter egg, do you little nibble and then put it back away for the next
God's
day?
sake,
Or are you
no way.
it's
It
gone?
goes. Yeah, I've got no self-control. I'd rather,
Okay.
as much as I love it, I'd rather it not be in the house.
I've had to throw Easter eggs away because I can't
Get
eat
out,
them.
it's out.
Yeah,
oh,
I can't do it.
can't
It's too much
broadcast
for
that.
me.
That's shocking.
I just have a little tiny bit and that's enough for me. I'm done. You know me, Gary, just a raisin for breakfast and I am full. If it was like cashew nuts or a jar of peanut butter, I'd be like, but chocolate doesn't do it for me. I know.
Oh, I love chocolate.
So,
Absolutely.
okay, so we're lining up. I've asked the kids, what's your favourite? And it changes every day. I haven't bought them yet. I've done this before, Gary, but now we're not in France because they weren't. It grew as we lived out there, the Easter eggs, but it wasn't a thing, really. You need to get down Co-op.
What's on the shopping list for the Easter eggs?
They're looking for size over quality. There's been like, do we just go classic dairy milk or do we go like Toblerone, which is like heavier? You get a denser chocolate. I tell you what, they're going to get what they're given. Those kids, they're going to get what they're given.
Do you look at the, I'm so tight, I will look at the cost per grams.
I will go with the first 3 that reach my hand when I'm rushing around the Co-op. They'll eat it.
Oh, that's going to be expensive shop in the Co-op.
What, for Easter eggs?
Oh, yeah, everything's expensive in the Co-op.
No, not here. Co-op's great.
Okay.
Quality, questionable. Are you a member?
Oh, yeah, I love me blue card. Yeah.
And they're judgy whenever I forget the card. And I'm like, you could have saved £1.
There's some big savings.
I don't do my big shop in Co-op, but Co-op, I like it for your quickie, jump in, get the milk, get the raisin wheats, whatever the kids eat at 9 o'clock at night. And then they go, there's no milk left.
That's one of my criteria for where if hopefully I don't ever move again, but if I was to move, I need to be walking distance. It doesn't have to be a Co-op, to be honest. I need to be able to walk to a shop.
To get milk, that would be handy, wouldn't it? Yeah, hopefully the bunny will come. We can only just cross fingers and hop across the bunny laying some little eggs. I'm keeping it realistic, Gary, this week. Single parenting, kids on holiday, working my ass off. So I set myself just a little challenge, not a challenge, but just so I didn't get sad that I would set my training and then not do it. Not do it, but it just wouldn't look how I did on paper. So I was like, right, be realistic. Have to get the dogs out first thing in the morning. Get up, Eddie. When the alarm goes off, get out of bed. I've managed that 3 mornings. Get up, 2 cups of tea before I get out, Gary. It's just, I just have to. And do you think, that would take me so long to drink? No, 10 minutes. Put the kettle on, unpack dishwasher.
You can't enjoy it. I love the ritual
It's not a
of it.
time for enjoyment. It's a time for caffeine. There's no
silence. The day is beginning.
I do enjoy the silence, but I need to keep moving because if I sit, it will suddenly be like 6:25 and I could.
Well, Eddie,
half an hour.
that moment, if it's full of optimism, you've got your plans for the day, nothing has derailed it, nothing has gone wrong yet. To rush that moment, you think you're robbing yourself.
If I don't rush
Calibrate.
that moment, Gary, things don't happen. I've got to move.
God.
I've also got 2 dogs going, is it now? Oh, is it now? Are we going now? What are we doing? And I have to go, like, I just need to do a wee before we go, is it now? And then I hit and they're like at the door going, come on. Anyway, get out of the house, get the run. So 4 or 5 miles with the dogs at a pace that Taki does not enjoy, but we don't have time. No sniffs, no fun.
Oh, it's Taki, my goodness.
That's what they're called. These runs are called no sniffs, no fun. One poo, 1 wee each. That's it. Then we're going. We go. Kids, then kids, move. Pack lunches made. They're doing a sports camp. They're doing this amazing sports camp, the older two, which they're loving. But it's 90 minutes away, Gary. What was I thinking? I am sharing lifts. I'm not having to do it all. But yesterday one was at another sports thing in the morning, so I had to drive him, and it's 5 hours worth of driving. My hamstrings by the time I got out of the car. Anyway, then I've got to do another 30 minutes in the evening. So I go, how hungry are you kids when we get back? How hungry are you? And if there's like, I'm like, right, I'm going on the treadmill. Fruit, you can eat apple or bananas, and that's it. I'll do tea when I come back. 30 minutes on the treadmill, Gary. So it can be heat suit, or it can be a session, or it can be a melange of the two, whatever I feel like doing. Got to be 30 minutes minimum, or 4 miles, whichever comes first. We all know which one comes first. And then back in while the heat suit's on, then I start making the quickest tea known to man. Quickest tea known to man? Omelette. Teach a kid how to make the omelette. They
Classic.
do that. One grates the cheese, one does the omelette.
Do you cheese then flip? So you make like
I don't know, he does it. I just leave him to it. He makes a beautiful omelette.
It doesn't turn to scrambled egg. Mine always turns into scrambled egg.
He's amazing. He turns it, it's all flipped. It's all brilliant. He's got his role in life now. He does the omelette, one does the grating. I do the
Saturday Kitchen.
vegetables.
They had the omelette challenge on Saturday Kitchen.
It is exactly. That's what, all in a heat suit, all prepped. We get it 8 minutes. It's out. It's on the table. They're all eating. I can't eat because I'm still in the heat suit. And that's how we're managing the day. So I could still get some miles in, still get sort of little sessions in, still do the dog, still do the work, and then I'm gonna just absolutely tack some long runs, hopefully this weekend, because people that have proper jobs have bank holidays. We don't have proper jobs, so we don't get bank holidays. But I'll be able to escape, hopefully, and get a double-ish, back-to-back, longish weekend, which will not only mean I get some miles in, it'll also mean I'll have plenty of space for my mini eggs. Because that's all I want, Gary, is a little packet of mini eggs.
You're running for calories.
What about you?
Lakes again. Spoilt. Off to the lakes again. Got a big old county tops recce planned. We did plan this one for a few weeks ago and it never happened. So fingers crossed we get to do it this weekend. Just in time. This will be on nobody's London Marathon training plan. I'm not too sure if it's sandbagging or self-sabotage, but nobody's last run would be a 6 hour, 21 mile, 7,000 feet of vert the week before London Marathon. I'm all in. I think I'll be okay for a week off. We will see. But that is the plan. Yeah, like you said, Easter, we bought all Easter eggs for the kids. I'm blanking on.
You're so organised, Kerry.
Oh, goodness me. I was even in the shop and I can't remember what they were now. So
you already eaten them. Got to go back again.
Off for a family curry on Saturday when I get back from the lake. So, although, yes, I'm not going to be indulging
that well-known Easter, no roast for you.
Yeah, we were surprised that we could get into the restaurant, but yeah, like you say, it's not exactly. Is it roast lamb you're supposed to have on Easter?
Well, the kids heard that. What were we watching? And someone said, "What's Easter without roast lamb?" And they were like, "Roast lamb? People don't eat lamb, do they? Or the little lamb?" And I was like, "I don't, but you guys." Exciting week next week on the podcast with London. Lots of tea and trailers at London, even though it's not on our official events list. Thanks for tuning in. We love you for listening. Please share the episode, the pod, share the love, pop over to Instagram, Facebook and YouTube, subscribe, or even consider becoming one of our awesome patrons. Thank you to X Miles, Precision Fuel Hydration, Phoenix Slate UK, Harrier Trail Running, Protein Rebel and Shocks for sponsoring this week's show. Here are the discount codes: T15 2025 for Shocks, T15 for Protein Rebel, T-Time 2025 for Precision Fuel Hydration and T10 for Harrier Trail Running. Thanks to our partners and patrons too. We couldn't do this without you and your ongoing support.
Let the trail rise to meet you and the wind always be on your back. Be kind to your future self, breathe and believe, and progress, not perfection. I'm going to include sisu in my little mantra. Sisu is a Finnish phrase where in the face of adversity, you just dig in, show grit and determination.
Just like Evie up the Monroe. That's just
exactly yeah.
What you need.
Just think of that. I'm going to write it on my arm actually, say these big scary races. Yeah, maybe London Marathon when things are when I am struggling.
Mile 2.
Sisu. My name is Gareth Thwaites.
And I'm Eddie Sutton.
And that was episode 117 of the Tea and Trails podcast. And don't forget, Tea and Trails Ultra, buy one, get one free Easter sale.